Story 1. When I was with my ex, we took a vacation, and I loved taking pictures of him. I remember when he was looking through some of the pictures, and he said, "I've never had anyone take pictures of me like this." And he just looked so genuinely happy. Story 2. I sent my husband flowers to his workplace on his birthday once. Then, I kept thinking, I wonder if I had done the right thing. He was the boss, and maybe his staff would rib him about them, but he came home absolutely thrilled. He said the female staff members are always getting flowers, but he was the only male who had gotten any. Story 3. I sent my boyfriend flowers just because I love him and miss him. No special occasion. I wrote a card in his native language with some help, and he thought at first that it was either the church he was affiliated with or maybe his parents. When he read the card and realized it was me, he was very happy and said it was the first time he had ever received flowers. I've never seen a brighter smile. Guys deserve flowers too. Story 4. My boyfriend borrowed one of my baggy hoodies last week to take our trash out real quick. When he came in, he said this must be how girls feel when they steal their boyfriend's hoodies. He didn't want to give it back. Story 5. I drive 2 hours to visit my girlfriend for a few days when I get off work around 10 p.m., and she gives me gas money. I almost started crying the first time, laughing my off. Story 6. For example, the other day, I brought a little lunchbox and a handwritten card to work for my boyfriend. He texted me right away, saying this is the first time he got a card, how touched he was and how happy he was. Mind you, this guy had a certain number of girlfriends. Little did I expect it to also be a shared experience. A video call with him the next morning, with all his friends pushing into the screen, telling me how happy he was last night and how they all enjoyed my food. Story 7. I always get the better thing. If we are at a show or sporting event, he gives me the better seat. If we split something, he makes sure I get the better half. I get the better plane seat, etc. I try to let or force him to take the better option, but he will not under any circumstances accept it. This could be an age thing, though. We are 44 and 46. Edited to add, I do most of the cooking, so when I plate our food, I will give him the better looking plate. He does not know, though, so he does not know what it is like to experience. Story 8. I have never received a heartfelt, thoughtful gift. I have always gotten the stereotypical man gifts such as socks, ties, a shirt. It is peculiar to me because I have so many interests. I love watches, hand tools, motorcycles, hiking, reading, and computers. Story 9. I had a girlfriend who would defend me, or rather my opinions or decisions, against others at any cost. Even when I knew she'd disagree personally. When I asked her why, she basically said, "You are my man, and I want everybody to know that you are the best thing that can happen to anybody. So they need to know that I stand 100% behind you." I found that a little odd, but it was a great feeling to have someone who has your back this way. She never spoke badly about me and would always tell anyone how great I was. Story 10. Having strangers ask you if your partner is treating you right or well. My ex eventually broke up with me on my birthday, a few months after I started standing up for myself and telling her when she made me feel bad or when her behaviors were abusive. Conveniently, we broke up after a 5-day trip to Vegas last year that I paid 80% of the cost for. I thought she was just insecure early on in our relationship, so I ignored a lot of red flags. She would gaslight me all the time, invalidate my emotions, belittle me for not having much dating experience, and no sexual experience before her. She made me feel bad for my ignorance on race. We were in a white male-black woman relationship and told me I had to do all the homework myself, that she wouldn't help me learn. She would yell and curse at me for not doing things she expected me to do without her asking or even giving a hint, and then belittle me for being ignorant of her expectations. I surprised her with things like flowers, chocolate, homemade sweets, pulling weeds in her yard for her, and fixing her car for her frequently. I took all of these things in stride for almost a year before I spoke up for myself. I lived for her. I loved her unconditionally and did everything I could to take care of her. However, after things got rough, every single time someone would see us in public and ask, "Does he treat you right? Does he take care of you?" or the like, and act as if I wasn't even there, I would visibly wilt and die a little inside. Not once in 14 months of our relationship did a single person, anywhere, ask me or ask her if she was treating me right. And you know what? She wasn't. She was abusive to me, and I was too much of a dumb, love-struck fool to see. Story 11. When I got engaged, I was told, "Don't screw this up," or some variation thereof over and over from her family and mine. It was always followed by a chuckle or a slap on the back or "just kidding," etc. But it got old pretty fast. I've always been a supportive and loving partner. I treat her well. After 7 years of marriage, we're just as happy and in love as we were when we started dating. But people still love to use that line. Sucks to hear. Story 12. Perhaps not within the context of a relationship, but definitely in the aftermath. Every time I have gone through a breakup, it is really hard to watch all of my now ex-girlfriend's friends rush in to support her. They bring food, have sleepovers, offer hugs, and so on. I might receive a pat on the back and a beer at a bar, and 2 days later, I am expected to be back on my feet again. I am in awe of women's friendships. They can be so loving. I can't imagine what that must feel like. Story 13. Being pursued or complimented. I dated quite a bit when I was younger and have been married for 6 years. I have no clue what any of these women liked about me. About 4 years into our marriage, I asked my wife, admittedly not a super eloquent person, and she said a few things. But they were all things I do and not things about me. Story 14. Receiving flowers on a platonic level is wonderful. I give most of my male friends flowers for their birthdays, and it's so wholesome to see their reaction. In summary, give men flowers. Story 15. Regular compliments. Men don't get them often. In fact, I still remember a girl who complimented my eyebrows nearly 10 years ago. Story 16. I'm going to admit from experience that it's probably stable affection. Unless the guy is a little unhinged, they will care even when we physically cannot care about them back, such as in the middle of a fit. Story 17. People recognize the effort that mothers put in, but in 10 years of being a father, only my own dad has recognized my effort. Story 18. These comments make me realize men are so deprived. I get my partner flowers, write him love notes, create hand-drawn art, plan dates, and get him nice gifts, sometimes just because. It's sad that so many don't get this even once. Story 19. In my other relationships, I didn't receive much affection in return, such as cuddling, running fingers lightly over my arms, back, legs, being kissed on the forehead, essentially just being loved. Now, my girlfriend and I are literally the same when it comes to affection and physical touch, so we do all of this for each other. She definitely spends a good amount of time some days caressing me, among other things. Sometimes it feels like people think men don't need affection or to be held, among other things. I don't know, if I can't have that, I don't want it. Story 20. I think my boyfriend is an absolute snack and love taking pictures of him. Whether it be of us together, him doing things, or him sleeping. We went to a brewery last week and found a Lego toy store next to it. It was his childhood dream. There were new ones in the box and older ones already assembled and so on. It was a neat place. I took a picture of him just staring at the wall of Star Wars ones and sent it to him the day after. It's his Facebook profile picture now. He said, "My ex, together 12 years, never took any pictures of me like that. I just thought he looked adorable and in his element walking around, and it was a moment worth capturing." Story 21. Being able to tell your partner that they did something which upset you without having to apologize to them afterwards. Story 22. Just once in my life, I would love it if a woman I was romantically involved with actually spent money on me. A surprise video game or Lego set, or any pricey non-practical thing I wouldn't normally buy for myself. Don't get me wrong. I fully recognize that plenty of men do, in fact, get spoiled by their significant others. It just seems like 90% of the time, it's usually the men doing the big gift giving, while women will just throw in intimate moments and call it good. Story 23. Maybe it's specific for me, but I've been in 3 long-term relationships, and I've always felt like the one who has to take responsibility for both myself and my partner. My partner has a doctor's appointment. Of course, I'll take them. Problem with the household? I'll organize the tradesperson. My partner's insurance is about to run out. I'll research a new one. I've always felt loved by my female partners, but I have never relied on any of them to take care of me. My partner regularly calls me with a problem for me to fix, and I just don't think I do that to her ever. I would never expect a partner to organize my insurance or drive me somewhere, but it just seems to be naturally more common for a male to do those things for a female. Every once in a blue moon, my partner will take the initiative and fix a problem before I have to deal with it, or even just pick me up from the airport, and I'm like, wow, I could get used to this, before it relegates into the status quo. I love my girlfriend, but it's just how it has been to be a man my whole life, and I don't expect it to change anytime soon. Story 24. I don't think I would have nearly as many romantic encounters as I do if I lived with my parents. However, many of the women I end up dating or connecting with live with their parents, and it doesn't really bother me. Story 25. The understanding and acceptance when sex is not desired today. Men can often get angry when they are refused, but most women become verbally and sometimes physically belligerent and accuse him of cheating. Then, the man has to apologize for withholding consent. Story 26. Vulnerability means being able to be completely open and honest about one's emotions and experiences without it being used against you as soon as things get rough. Story 27. Not trying to be edgy, this just genuinely came to mind first. Men don't really get to experience the absolute feeling of safety that they provide. Not all women are the same, but my wife is always on high alert when she's out and about in the city by herself. She's even slightly on edge at home if I'm not around. My simple presence drastically changes her feelings of safety and comfort. That's mostly why she likes to run errands with me instead of alone and prefers to travel together. It's just an elevated baseline level of stress without me. I don't think that's really a thing the other way around. Story 28. Support. Emotional or physical abuse will be met with mockery and laughter, and almost never actually taken seriously. Story 29. Unprompted affection. Security. The extreme luxury of not having to make the first move and potentially putting your reputation on the line if that move is unwanted. This is because men won't accuse you of being a creep unless you are threatening them with violence, revealing their private information online, or stalking them. They'll be grateful you see them that way, but decline if they're not interested. Women, however, might accuse you of being a creep for simply being socially awkward while still showing interest. Story 30. Kind of random, but men in a relationship are absolutely never allowed to lose their temper. Whereas, you have to be respectful if the woman is mentally having a hard time. Story 31. Revealing their true, deep down feelings about what's on their mind. That's definitely not to say girls can't be loving, accepting, caring partners. But I would say that most guys I know have only revealed their truest, darkest thoughts to another male friend. Again, not to say girls don't have difficulties in relationships too. Story 32. To be completely right and let me express myself, why aren't my feelings important enough to need validation? How much time do you have? Mr. Don't get me started. Story 33. Even if in a long-term committed relationship or marriage, we are still not allowed to cry. Maybe we do sometimes, but not to the full extent that we want to. We have to be alone if we really, really want to cry. Story 34. My ex cried when I gave him a bottle with little letters on it about things I like about him and the moments I loved doing with him. I thought he would only accept it out of whim because I don't have money to buy anything. He cried his eyes out while reading each of it. Story 35. Receiving flowers. The first time I bought my husband flowers, he teared up and said it was the sweetest thing to receive. He said no one had ever bought him flowers before, but he loved it. Story 36. My wife got me a single rose for Valentine's Day, along with candy. The rose was what attracted me the most. I was gaming, and I took my headphones off and was in awe. It was so precious to me that I wouldn't put it down until I had a proper vase. Story 37. Gifts, which seems to be part of the theme of this post. This substitute teacher from my school left me a sweet note when she had to cover my class one day. She had been there a couple of times before, so we talked, and she was very sweet. Oh, so pretty. It was a platonic letter, but how she worded it was so amazing. I keep it in my desk and read it every now and then, and think of her. I literally fell head over heels for her from that one little thoughtful gesture. I did not expect that, and she was just a substitute. I realized that in my past relationships, how much this was part of my love language that I didn't receive. Never saw her after that, but wow, I hope to meet someone like that so we can spoil each other. Story 38. Getting romanced and getting attention about your emotions in daily life. It exists, it is just really rare. Story 39. Having a partner initiate sex makes you feel attractive and desired. Too few women initiate in their relationships. Story 40. I understand this is a nightmare scenario for women, but I can't help but laugh that it would be a man's dream scenario to get picked up, have a nice expensive meal paid for, and a night on the town. And at the end, expect sex from you. But feeding off that comment, women experience the implication.